Welcome, Drink with James, episode 143. We are in my very unfinished office. Listen, I'm a man of the people, as I've said before, and while it is kind of embarrassing that I'm going to have an office, I have made it the last priority. It has not been touched. There's still paper on the floors. I'm not sure when this office will actually be done. But for the meantime, one second. I don't know when this office will actually be done, but we can enjoy the incredible light and hopefully improved sound that it is already providing. We are in the first week of the new office. It has been honestly a fucking nightmare to get this done. My life was completely consumed with getting this office done. I spent 20 hours in here over the weekend and 12 hours on Friday unpacking every box and getting it all set up. But walked in Monday morning and it is not done, but it is very nearly there. We will be having some influencer events soon. We'll be having some brand events coming up. So we're excited to kind of show you the space, build it out. Last thing, obviously, other than my office to finish, is the bar. So you will walk into our space, and this should not be surprising that you will walk into a 25-foot bar. It's important to really just lay your cards down in the beginning, let people know what you're all about. You come into our space, this is a place where alcoholics get work done. So that's what we're doing. One of the side fringe benefits of moving has been a few of my friends have sent through whiskey as a congratulations. This from Dave McNamee, who's the PR director at Expedia.com, which is a very fine travel site that you guys should all use. He sent this. This is delicious. Look, I put it on my Instagram. No one's really messaged me yet, other than Maggie Chan. She did. I said, look, DM me, I'll give you the address for you to send us whiskey as a office warming. So that offer stands. Very happy to accept and receive the whiskey that you send. Anything over $75, I'll probably just take back to my apartment because God knows it won't last long here. But let me know. We will send you the address if you're interested. We love all gifts. So,
what's been the most surprising and hardest part of the move?
I mean, the whole move, this was a 2-month project at least that we did in 3 weeks. So it was unbelievably difficult to get it done. And hats off to my contractor who just absolutely killed it and knocked it out of the park. This was actually his first, he was working for someone else, and this was his first kind of big project out on his own. I've worked with him for years. He's fantastic. He was great. The hardest thing, honestly, has been, it's tough because I didn't have any levers to pull. We didn't have any time, so we couldn't do things slow. And we were trying to keep costs down. So usually the way that you solve unsolvable problems is that you either add more time and say, okay, this is just going to take longer, or this is going to cost more money. Both of those things weren't possible. So it called for a lot of complex, creative problem solving every single day of how do you get the things that you want done for the price you want. I mean, an example is these walls. The first quote we got for them was 2 or 3 times what we ended up paying for them. And they wanted 8 weeks to do it. So we found someone to do it for a third of the price and do 50 feet of, probably more than that. I don't know. We got them to do 6 walls like this in 10 days. So I feel good. We got it done, mostly, obviously. We're not totally done. But I also got to my desk Monday afternoon and sat down and I was just what's my job again? I have no meetings this week because I've just been totally focused on this. And I think you guys can probably commiserate, when you have a big project that you're working on, or maybe this is what brides feel like after a wedding. Where you get back from the wedding, you're what the fuck do I do with my life now? Because it's been so consumed with this thing that had to get done. and then it's over, and you're happy because the stress is over, but also you're like, oh, I used to be like solving all these problems all day and doing all this shit. Now I'm just like back to sitting in meetings, which is fine, but it's different. So also getting the internet to just work is always annoying. It's been 3 days. We finally figured it out, but that has been frustrating. Okay. This is obviously not my real desk. I stole it out of one of our phone booths, but let's do this thing. Let's get to questions. Question number 1 is, what do we think about live streaming? Is that going to be like the future? I feel like maybe we've answered this question before, but that was before AOC started live streaming everything that she does. It works for AOC, right? Like she does it and it's compelling. I think it's hard to be interesting live. I think that like 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes of live content is pretty hard to like keep someone's attention. I personally haven't watched that many live streams in my life on Instagram. Be interested to know if you guys find yourself watching a lot. I think that like beauty influencers do a great job. We've done some campaigns where we have like a live Instagram live part of the campaign where they're doing their full makeup look or something. I think that makes sense. I've seen influencers do like a QA type thing, like ask me, I'm going to be live for 15 minutes on Tuesday to answer your questions. But I think that the question feature on Instagram has kind of solved that a little bit, where you don't need to do that. Going live is like assuming that like people just have, because you have to think, let's just like think about Instagram. It is a distraction app, right? So it is an app that you use in between other things. Your friends going to the bathroom at a restaurant. What do? You take your phone out, you open Instagram. You don't type in someone's blog and start reading a blog post. It's because you can get value out of Instagram looking at it for 10 seconds or an hour straight. And that's what makes the platform so sticky, is that like, you can just be like, oh, I'm just gonna like sneak a little thing in here. Okay, like I just loaded it up, saw if I had any new comments or anything, and saw someone's post, right? So like in that amount of time. But you can also, as we all have done, waste hours of your life sitting on it. And so it is this like distraction app. And so I think thinking that the people who are on the platform, which again, they're probably looking for a little hit dopamine, something to do for a few minutes, the thought that they're going to sit there and watch your entire live stream, to me, seems unlikely. I do think as an influencer, if you can make more of an event of it, or you make it like a normal thing, I go live every second Tuesday and you build up to it so people have some time to plan that like I'm going to be home and focusing on this. I also think that if you're just like one of those influencers that has like crazy fans, they'll do anything. They'll like, they'll stop what they're doing. They'll leave their meeting. They'll tell their friend to shut the hell up and watch your live feed, your live stream. It's rare to have that level of fandom, I think. So I think it's tough. I don't think live streaming is going anywhere. It seems to be integrated into every kind of new social platform. I'm not sure that it's going to be like the next big thing necessarily, because generally it's pretty boring for most people. Yeah, question 3 is, how do you prepare for a meeting, and how do you make sure that meeting is what was it like?
Beneficial to both parties.
And how do you make sure that meeting is beneficial to both parties? Great question. Look, meetings are in large part an enormous waste of time. There's like a whole movement and everything around like killing meetings and not doing meetings. And we have a lot of meetings here and like we struggle with the same thing. How do you make sure they're beneficial? How do you make sure you're not wasting people's time? How do you make sure your meeting couldn't have just been an email? That is a frustration that I don't know that goes away, because meetings are in a lot of ways a necessary evil, especially as an influencer. It's super important to get in front of the brand, be like, this is me, this is my face, this is my personality, this is my vibe, this is what I believe in. How do you make it valuable is like, it needs to have a point. I think you need to go into that meeting knowing what you want to get out of it, and making sure that like there is this, I think, temptation to just small talk for a while. Let's say you have a 30-minute meeting, you small talk for 20 minutes of that. That's not super valuable for anyone. So I think if you're going to take 30 minutes of someone's life away, 30 minutes that they're never going to get back, even worse if it's a full hour, you need to have a reason, right? You need to have a thing, and then you have to get to the point at some point. You don't have to sit down and be like, okay, here's what I want. Like, certainly you have to kind of warm up to it, but like, you always have to ask for the sale. And the sale doesn't necessarily mean I have a project I want to pitch and I need money. It can be, I want to be on y'all's event list. I mean, it can be anything, but like, think about the point of the meeting and think about that as the sale, and make sure you implicitly ask for it, and say, I want this. I would love this. I want to do this. I'd love to talk about doing this. Like, you have to like have a clear thing that like when they leave the meeting, they understood why they had that meeting. Because you don't want to walk out and be like, why the hell did I do that? Like, I meet with influencers as often as I can. And sometimes they come in and they just talk and they tell me about themselves. And I'm like, that was completely worthless. Like, I got to know you, which is great. But like, there was just no point. And I'm left now being like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Because I met with you. You must have an expectation. I don't know what the expectation is. And so I don't know how to fulfill that expectation. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, But if you leave the meeting being like, I'd love introductions to your execution team, or I've been trying to work with these 5 brands and I don't know anyone there, so I would love introductions there. It's now on me to say no or yes, but at least I know what the hell you want from me. And then after the meeting, quick follow-up, like try and do it in a couple hours if you can. Do it in the Uber or in the subway after the meeting. Sit in the parking lot, and write a draft. I wouldn't send it 2 minutes after the meeting, but certainly within 24 hours, you want to say, obviously great to meet you, et cetera, et cetera. You want to summarize what happened in the meeting so that they remember, and there's a like paper trail about it. And then you want to summarize what your asks were. And if there was any action points where they said, yeah, I'll definitely introduce you, say like, really looking forward to that. Thank you so much. Again, as a follow-up, here are the brands that we talked about you introducing me to. And let's live in that world. Let's say we had a meeting and I said I would introduce you to 5 brands, okay? And you just send an email and you're just like, thank you so much. It was great to meet with you. One, again, I may forget, so you have to summarize what happened, summarize the ask, and then go the next step and be like, think about what is that brand? Okay, if I have to introduce you to 5 people, then do you think it's easier if you give me a paragraph that explains what you do and who you are, rather than me having to think that up and write it myself? So I would be like, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. This is such a huge help. Thought it might be helpful for me to just write a little blurb about who I am and like what I do, so that like you don't have to write it, right? Like little things like that. I think you want to think about like, if a brand is doing something for you, how do you continue to make their life easier? We've talked about this when you're working in an activation with the brand, about doing your own reporting and things like that like will make the brand person's life easier. Same thing after a meeting. How do you start to do their job so that it feels really like a really easy thing for them to check off the list after that meeting? So I think that is super important, is like sending that summary email, summarizing your asks, and doing some of the work for them. And then as far as research before the meeting, research who you're talking to. Know if it's a junior person or a senior person. Do a little digging about their background. You don't want to be unprepared, and you don't want to be left, imagine you are talking about a brand and you like, let's say you like bash a brand. He's like, oh, this brand, I don't like what they're doing or whatever. And you didn't see that on their LinkedIn. The person you're meeting with was head of, social there for the last 3 years. So the thing you're bashing was actually their project, right? It's like little things like that can ruin a relationship, can be, you can skirt it, one, by not being an asshole and bashing people in meetings, but that's hard for me, and I understand that could be hard for you. But do your research and make sure you're kind of understanding who you're talking to so you don't get yourself into any trouble, and you can use it. Oh, I saw you went to this college. I also went there. I saw you went here. I was in that town once. I drank with my friend there. You need to try and build a personal relationship, and a little bit of research can help do that. Not so much research that you're like creeping on them, like that they're like, oh, gross. You know way too much about me. So there's a fine line there. I wouldn't go like 3 years back on their Instagram, but I would like peek at their LinkedIn, peek at their Instagram, see what their last couple photos are. Did they get back from a trip recently? Just something to like get the conversation going. Question 2 is, how do you evaluate originality? I don't think that originality has to be necessarily evaluated. One, there is really almost no true originality. Everything is a progression from something else, or everything is a, iteration or a slight copy or a evolution of something before it. Even if it's not a conscious ripoff, you're just like, you're seeing things and those things are influencing what you're doing. And sure, you can create something totally new that's never been created before, but I think you can also see the thread and the line that gets you to there. So like, I wouldn't waste a huge amount of my time, I wouldn't waste a huge amount of my time trying to understand what the litmus test for like, is it original or is it not? I think probably more interesting or a better question is like, is it interesting or is it not? Generally, new original things are interesting and compelling. But they don't have to be. Look at Instagram. A lot of the posts and the photos that do the best, it's the same shit over and over again. So I think you should be striving to find your voice. And I think that if you are true to that and you are really trying to project your vision into the world, that like by nature, it will be original if it is personal, because it's really just about you. So I think that like, that's probably the truest way to originality, is to just, chase individualism and try and be yourself. Because again, that is the only thing that you can do that other people can't do, is just like, do you. That's all, people. Look, excited to be in the new space. We are going to be trying out some locations. This one feels like it might be the winner, but we'll take you on a little tour of the office as we build new spaces and try new things. As always, send your questions. Without your questions, Tim and I were just drinking in a construction site. So cheers.